What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Baseline podcast. It's your host here, Jonathan Rears, got Neetson Aaron, and we got Jay Hill, Jeremiah Hill with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Nice to meet you both and happy to be here.
Yes, sir. So, like I always say at every episode, what we do with the Baseline is we share basketball players' stories from all over the world. And, every story is so unique. And, we're very excited to dive into your story. And
Mhm.
yeah, let's get it going. So, as we start every episode, we like to do a little icebreaker. So, you built your career level by level, country by country. When you look back, what part of your journey are you proudest of? The breakthrough moments or the fact that you kept climbing?
Oh, so the proudest of, I think would probably have to be last year that we were able to bring back Shalom to the qualifiers. As far as success, that part of it was really special. I mean, I won championships like in Kazakhstan, but obviously the level of basketball is much different when you're playing locally there versus locally here. So for us to finish eighth in the regular season and make the qualification to then be where we are this year was very special. So then that's the proudest. And the second part is, what was the after proudest then?
I was just saying either your breakthrough moments or something that,
Uh,
like the fact that you kept climbing up.
No, I mean, I think that's probably the biggest one. I don't think really I've had like a breakthrough moment. I feel like it's kind of just been like a gradual thing. Yeah, not that I can think of. I don't think there was any breakthrough. I just think it was kind of just gradual.
So first thing I want to do is we kind of want to introduce you a little bit to our listeners. Go through your career for a second,
Hmm.
just like as a little snapshot of it. Now, fair warning, I usually miss one. So if I
Okay.
miss one, let me know. But we'll start off with you started out at Savannah State, right?
Hmm.
I mean, you're from Richmond Hill, Georgia, went over to Savannah State, then transferred to Valdosta State, which I think they're both D2, correct?
Savannah State, when I was there, we were D.
Okay, so D1, then you transferred to Valdosta, which is D2.
Yeah.
So then from there, you went and played in the VTB, which is the Russian league.
I actually played in the ABA
Okay.
first, and then I went to the G League, then I went to the VTB.
G League, then VTB. Then you went over and played in France in the first league, Spain a couple years in the first league, back to the VTB. Then you played like 2 games over in Israel, and now you've
Mhm.
been playing in France for the past 2 years in the first league.
That's
So
about
now
right.
take us all the way back to kind of the beginning when the ball was first put into your hands. Where does the love of the game come from? Where does the spark?
Kind of, the way my son, as hearing from my parents, it's kind of like the way my son is doing, where he's just attracted to anything that's round and he can throw. So everything's a basketball in his eyes. And I think growing up, that's what my parents said too, is everything was just a basketball. So it's kind of always been there. I mean, I've played other sports, but this one just kind of stuck the longest. So as far as I remember, I was born with one. I've always had one. And my dad played in the military, so like I've been around basketball as a game, and then I think maybe 4 or 5. Like we started playing in leagues, like little kid leagues, and then the rest is as normal kids go through progressing through basketball. I did not play in middle school except for my 12, 13. I didn't play. I didn't make the team. My eighth grade year, I made the team. And so that was the first like school organized that I played was eighth grade. So I was 13 maybe is when I played like a school team.
What was that like for you not making those sixth and seventh grade teams and then coming to prove
Well,
yourself in eighth grade?
when we were growing up, both of my parents were in the military. So, like for instance, my sixth grade year, I went to 2 different schools in 2 different states. So I wasn't even there to be able to try out for the team. In seventh grade, I went to 4 schools, and at the start of the school year, I tried out for a team, and I was maybe 4'6" or something like this. Like I was really, really, really small. And in North Carolina, everyone was really, really, really big. And I was also younger than everyone at the time, so it didn't help me being physically able to play. Which looking back at it, I think that it's really the best thing that could have happened. It made me, like reflect internally if this is something that I wanted to do. And I worked really, really hard after that to make sure that it would not happen again. So it was good after that. It worked well.
And, you know, you're talking about moving so much, being in a military family. I was going to ask you, what was basketball culture like growing up in Richmond Hill? But, if you're moving around so much, were you kind of able to take different basketball cultures and blend them together? Or how was that like for you?
I think, yeah, realistically, I think that's the best way to think about it, especially like with the United States, similar to how like in Europe, like Spain has a style of basketball, France, Israel, everyone, it's kind of like that inside of the United States. So like up in the north, it's much different than in the south of the US and east and west. Everybody plays different. So although I didn't make the teams, I was able to spend a lot of times in parks and watch. Obviously, I still was the same size, so they didn't pick me to play often, but I got to watch. And, I would agree that you kind of do pick up pieces from everywhere you go to like make a big puzzle of how basketball should be played. But as far as when I was in Richmond Hill from eighth grade till I finished high school, my parents are still there now. And my school was always a football school, like American football. So basketball was not as, focused upon as other sports in our school. And I was the only one who really was trying to play basketball besides my brother at our school after. So, and it wasn't from them, it wasn't much that they cared about as far as development and so on and so forth. So it was a lot with my parents and like my club coach. He is the one who would have me in the gym. And that's where my, work ethic came from.
Did you start playing AAU at that point? As you said,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of
Eighth
different
grade.
things with the South where you have like the Friday night lights for football, but then you also have the elite AAU and
Mm,
scene that especially North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, all these
yeah,
things.
and the
So what was your
Peach
AAU
Jam, and
experience like?
we were terrible. We were terrible. We were really, really small. Like I think our center was 6'4", maybe. White guy, really, really goofy. Like was really didn't care about basketball. So for him, he was just there to like travel. I was 5'2". Our other point guard was 5'1". Then we get maybe a 6 foot with the other two positions. And like you're saying, these elite programs are coming with 7 foot big men or 6'8", and we had no chance, none at all. And so it was literally, we just traveled to get beat really bad every time.
I mean, what mentally did that do for you? Because I feel like if when I played AAU basketball, like one of the best parts was the competing, right? So
Yeah,
like, going and just getting an ass whooping every time from people who are like a foot taller, that has to mentally take a toll.
that's gentle. That's a gentle way of putting it. But, it was the same. Like, I realized that it was something that I wanted to do that they were just doing to, be our friends and keep us, like, together. So it wasn't so much of, like, them or, like, our success as a team. It was, always about me getting better. My dad was my coach. So we were 15 playing 17. So, like, for us, it was like, well, for me, more so was like, can I play still at this level with these guys? Personally, I was able to play, but we as a collective were not able to do well. So for me, it was like, okay, I realized I can still play with these guys, but we can't as a team. Then as I got older, my 11th grade year, we played to our age. So at this time we were 16 and we went to a 16 tournament and we went to the Disney one. And then now we're beating teams, like beating teams. And we only went to the one in Disney and that was it. And then it was like a aha moment to where we're like, oh, okay. So if we play people our age, we're much better than people at our age, but we're not obviously better than people getting ready to go to college. So
So talk us through, getting ready to go to college. Talk us through what your college recruitment was like and why you ultimately decided to go to Savannah State.
no, I was non-existent. I didn't have anything. Like I was saying, no one cared about basketball at our school. So, it wasn't like a big push from our school to try and help with us as far as basketball players going to the next level. So everything that we did was me and my parents, where we were reaching out to schools and really trying to figure it out on our own. Savannah State is like with traffic 35 minutes from my house. So obviously we tried to do that. In Georgia, being a Georgia resident, you get like money for staying in the state. And then my parents being military also was able to help. So, that kind of situation just worked. I tried to go to Emory, which if you know anything about that school, it's a really
Great school.
prestigious
Yeah.
school to get into.
D3,
So
yeah.
yeah, so I went and I think my ACT was like 2 points underneath what it needed to be to get in. And so that fell through. They were going to give me a scholarship, but I didn't have the ACT score and I wasn't going to take it again because I felt like I did really well. And I was like, if that's the case, I know I'm not going to do better. I'm just wasting money and time. So Savannah State was like, okay, we will bring you on and redshirt you your first year. And I was like, that's perfect. I graduated high school at 17. I started early and I was like, oh, this will give me a year to catch up and be at the same level of everyone starting college. So it sounded great. And that's what we ultimately went with. And if you see, that's not how the story happened at all. I got to school and was able to contribute, even though I was 17 and these guys are 21. So I didn't get to redshirt and ended up playing anyway.
I mean, taking it back just real quick before we dive deeper into that. When you said you were like 5 in your beginning of high
Yeah.
school, when did the growth spurt happen? And is that what made you realize, okay, like time to start reaching out to these like programs? Or was it, something just deeper inside?
Nah, man, honestly, it didn't happen until my 11th grade summer. So would be 15, turning 16, the start of 11th grade. And I got to like 5'8". And for me, I going from 5'2" into 5'8" in maybe 6 or 7 months was crazy. And I thought I was king of the world. So from then, I continuously grew until the end of college, but like
Hmm.
little, all the way. Um, and so even at the end of college, or end of high school, sorry, I was maybe 5'11", 5'10", something like this, 140 pounds maybe. So physically, I still didn't have the frame, and I didn't play at the level of where, it would be worth taking a risk. And now I understand that, like, if I were to look back and see it, at what I was able to do then, I don't see that it would be very, appeasing to look at or to think that there would be the potential for me to grow to where I am today. So it was luck, I think, a lot of it. Luck and late genetics.
So now
So
diving in a little bit to Savannah State, you said you kind of were supposed to come in as a redshirt, but you found yourself, well, first of all, you were looking at D3 schools, and then Savannah State, which is D1, says that you can come play for them. So
mm,
what was that about coming in and being able to contribute for a Division 1 program right away when you were looking at schools like Emory instead?
well, it happened to be that my parents were right and school paid off. Because I had good grades, I was able to get in and basically have school paid for, which is what they were looking for because the guys at our school didn't have the best of grades, and I would help bring the average of the team up. So, shout out to her for making that push. But to get there, and for one, it was an HBCU, which is a historically Black university. So that experience in itself is its own unique experience. Um, and so being in the military is like so much, cultural diversity than to be in one group was culture shock for real because yes, my dad is Black, but my mom is white and they've always fought to like keep it very, mixed between the two. And then I get to school and it was crazy in that experience. But the basketball side of it was I've always been able to shoot the ball and I've always been really smart at how to play basketball. Obviously, I'm not the best physical athlete there is, but my brain allows me to make up for a lot of, lack of those traits. So getting into school, it was simply that I was smarter and was able to figure out how to get my shot off and make the right play. Unfortunately, I guess, or not, depending on how people look at my career. it just was worked out. I played the whole season, started some games, had some good games, had some bad games, but the experience still showed me that I still believe I can play at this level too. It didn't deter me at all. And then we go from after this year, they didn't want to offer me a full scholarship, and that's why I left.
Right. So now we go not D3, not D1, right in the middle. We go D2 to Valdosta State, if I'm not mistaken. And we've had guys on the show who played D3, who played D2. A guy that we love to bring up a lot is John D. Bartolomeo, who plays for Maccabi. D3 guy playing at the highest level EuroLeague. And at the end of the day, what we see is that there's like elite players at every level going to play D2 at Valdosta State. And you also became one of like the best players in Division Two. What was that like for you having that D1 experience and then going there and averaging almost 20 points per game?
Well, believe it or not, the school I went to, we had a lot of D1 transfers. I don't know how our coach was able to do it or what makes the city's not great. I don't know. I just think that it was like, the visits. We had really, really good guys as far as when recruits come in to make you want to stay. So when the Division 1 guys would come in, they would show us the life and, you fall for the trap. So we had a lot of guys. I think 5 or 6 that I ended up staying with for the 3 years that were D1 guys that came to play with us. So, we were a talented group that just all decided that it was going to make a fit. As far as the basketball, it's what I tell everyone. As far as the difference for me from Division 1 to Division 2 is big men. I think the guard play at Division 2 is equal level. There's a lot of D2 guards that can, if you put them in big programs, can do the same thing as the guards that are there. Obviously, not all of them. There are rare cases of Anthony Edwards or people like that
Yeah.
who come to college and there's nothing you can do with them. We would have all been fine to go. Everyone from my senior year, for sure, of that conference, the guards could have played it anywhere throughout the country. So for me, that's always what it's been the biggest difference. Our bigs are 6'5", and Duke is 7 foot, or North Carolina, they're 6'11", 6'10". We don't have those, and I think that's the biggest difference. So obviously, it's been the same experience since I've been in high school. As far as what I play against is the most athletic, best defensive player. So all I did was really just find a way to do the same thing I've always been doing, is find a way to score and trying to help my teammates score easily by attracting so much attention. And I had a coach that let me do pretty much anything I wanted to do. And when you have that kind of confidence behind you, and you're able to shoot a little bit, it gets real simple to score.
What's your mindset going into this year? Because if I'm not mistaken, you started 15 games at the Division 1 level, and for them to say like they don't want to offer you after contributing to that level, especially as a 17-year-old, there are
Mm.
20-year-olds who don't even start a game yet, and to come in as an under-recruited like 17-year-old supposed to redshirt, start half the season, and then not get that offer. What was your mindset going into D2 after that?
That I wanted to prove them wrong. The same that it's always been. I kind of get written off a lot of times, like through growing up based on whatever the reason is, size, experience, whatever, is to show that it was a mistake. And then that was pretty much the only thing I thought about. And I went to school and I had luckily come in with guys that also ended up staying for the 3 years. We were able to spend so much time that the basketball became, almost like robotic. So where we didn't think anymore, like our bodies just played because we knew what he was going to do without him. He doesn't have to say anything. He can just look the right way and we know what the read is. So that was, the big of it is that I just wanted to prove them wrong.
That basketball is so much fun when you're clicking on all cylinders and it's fluid and you have guys with you that you played with for 3 years, but you go and you lead the team in scoring, in assists, in steals. You won Gulf South Conference Player of the Year, earned NABC All America honors. You have all these accolades, and you said like you came down with 5 or 6 other D1 transfers for 3 years. So during those 3 years, were you getting calls from other Division I schools, and what made you guys want to stay with that same team for the next 3 years?
Well, it was a long time ago, so it's not nearly as exciting as college basketball is now, as far as the fluidity to go through teams and do all that craziness. We didn't have that option really, considering that I went from D1 to go to D2, then if I left, I would have to miss a year to play 1 year of D. In my brain, it was like not even an option ever. I paid no mind to it at all. And my sophomore year, I didn't play great, and then my junior year, I broke my wrist and missed half the season. So it wasn't like they were knocking on the doors, per se, until I don't know. I still don't, maybe now is the first time people really knock on our door. But it's been the same. It's kind of just was quiet. People didn't expect it. And then when we had the year we did, where we ended up being ranked in the nation and, winning the regular season, it kind of just all happened so fast.
What did winning like the player of the year mean to you? When you get that kind of accolade, especially coming from your backstory of people not knocking down your door, people not saying this is an opportunity that we're going to like give to you. It's always something that you've had to earn. What did getting that accolade mean to you?
Realistically, it wasn't much. It just said that I was the best player on the best team. So if I didn't have the guys that I had, they don't even pay attention to me. So, we finished in first place. I was not even first in the league in scoring. I think I was maybe third. I didn't lead the league in rebounds or assists or steals or anything. I just was the best player on the best team. So it's more of an accolade for them. I told them even, when I won the award that it was more of their award than it was mine. I just happened to make some shots when you guys passed it and we played the right way together. So it was more of their, like I said, it was just more of their award than mine.
Amazing. Like you said, you guys were clicking, so you said it great. But now college is over and you have this next summer going into pro basketball. What was that next summer like? What were your thoughts going in? During your senior year, were you like, shit, like I could actually do this for a living?
Yeah, we had a big man from our school that left and went to Romania, and he played, and then he got homesick and came back to school, and I couldn't believe this. Like for me, it never made sense. I still don't understand it. To see that we were able to get agents and representatives out of our school to go, then I was like, for sure, he's no question that I'll be able to get somewhere. Now, I didn't understand anything as far as what goes on over here, so it was very different once that process started. As senior year ended, I thought that it would be easy to play.
But you didn't go overseas first. You went to the G League first. Is that correct?
I went to the ABA, which is
Oh, you went
like,
to the ABA first.
yeah, so I left school. I had an agent reach out that was supposed to be like a family friend, and I got two options. Basically, was to try out for Stockton Kings or go to Romania for 3,000 a month. Now, at the time, I had no clue how any of this worked. And looking back at it, that was a stupid decision that I decided to go for a tryout spot instead of 3,000. There's people who play their whole career and don't barely touch 3,000 a month. And that was the first job for me out of college. So seeing that was crazy, but I guess, everything happens for a reason. So I left. I went to go try out for the Kings. It was a loaded tryout. It was basically impossible for me to make that team. And I wasn't fully aware of the entire situation. So obviously I didn't make the team. I went back home, super discouraged and annoyed basically that I didn't get all the information I was supposed to. And after that, I go home, talk to my parents. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, blah, 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 blah. And there was guys that I had played, like the money tournaments they do in the summer where you go and you play for 25,000, whatever. These guys I had gone to play in these tournaments with. I had no money. And then so they were like, oh, Jacksonville has a ABA team, just come play with us. So I go down there. I make $250 a game. So I have to get a part-time job. I'm working at Lowe's. I get I get the license to drive the tractor, so I'm there, at 4 a.m. before everyone in the world is awake, piling mulch and all this stuff. And then after, go to the gym. I had a guy that played with our team that was really, 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 really good, but a guy that was scared to leave the country. He had a young kid and all this, so he didn't really want to leave the country to play basketball, but he was there and he was very, very talented. That kind of like put me under his wing and was like, I'm not gonna let you waste your opportunity or your ability. So I ended up living with him, and he would make sure I got up to go to work, that I did weights, that I go to our team practice, that I wasn't out doing stupid stuff that 22-year-old kid can do that's not living at home. So that's kind of what I did. We played that whole year, win a championship. Then that's when we go to Orlando for the walk-on tryout thing and happened to make that team.
So yeah, so we hear sometimes that, whether it's trying to get out of college and get those pro contracts or even things like COVID where, contracts aren't really knocking on your door. So you end up being an Amazon driver, working at Lowe's or
Mhm.
any of these things. But you do that and, working a part-time job, also trying to get your work in so that it's not just when you go to practice or games, you got to get that extra work in. And then being able to go walk on for a G League team and play 44 games there. What's like the mindset going into that? How did you deal with that year?
What's funny is once you get to Florida, there's so much of the same people that are trying to do the same thing, that it's the same faces you see in these tournaments and these pickup runs so when I went to the tryout, it was a lot of guys that I knew personally. And it became more about me trying to beat them than me trying to win, the spot that they were offering. It was more of a personal thing. But, I have a big credit to the coaches that I've played for before. We were always taught to play basketball the right way. If there's an open guy, you pass the ball to open guy. Like, even if the shot is good for me, it's better for him to be wide open than me shooting a contested one. Obviously, now it's a little bit different. I sometimes shoot some crazy ones. But once I was able to go to the tryout and play basketball the right way, it led me to be called back the next day where they had these talents, that people that they wanted to see play that were leaving from college or whatever. And I just continued to do the same thing, which was playing the way I was taught to play basketball. And then I got invited to the training camp.
On that team, you also had XRM Xavier Ratan Mays, and you had another guy in your league, Brian Ingela. You talked about seeing these guys from other tournaments and then trying to battle with them in Orlando.
Mhm.
Now you traveled the world, and every year you probably bump into guys where you played with them in the past too.
Yeah, the basketball world, we say, is getting smaller. The longer you play, the world gets so much smaller. Everybody knows each other. It's like kind of like a frat where you know someone who knows someone, and then you become friends because of it. And it's just the culture that we're in now.
It's funny, we're starting to experience that too with the more we're getting into the podcast, everything, where we'll interview a player and then we'll find out they were teammates with a guy we interviewed yesterday, or or they were college teammates with a dude that's supposed to come on next week. And it's like the basketball world, as you said, is so small, yet also it takes you to so many different places. And I wanted to
Absolutely.
ask you from kind of the beginning. You come from a military family, you said, and so you've moved around a lot, but you said inside the states, right? You guys were always there.
My brother and sister were born in South Korea, so we've been a lot of
So yeah, so
places.
y'all have been everywhere. So like when, as you said, you had this mentor that was scared to leave and was scared to really chase that dream outside of the US. Does coming from a military family and having these type of background open up the world for you in terms of saying like I can go anywhere in the world for basketball because I've done it already for my family?
You know, I feel like I've gotten this question before and never really know how to put it into words. I don't live like that, like in general. Like I barely know what's gonna happen tomorrow or like for dinner, or I kind of live everything like in what's happening right now. So when you start to think about it, I never really did. I just kind of got an agent and is like, well, we have this opportunity, yes or no? And yes, okay. And then I just moved and lived and came home and then moved and lived. And that was just it. Maybe it is because I've moved so much that it's never really been a thought that I thought about. It was just kind of I knew I was gonna be okay no matter where I am or what I'm doing because I never have a problem with like making friends or finding stuff to do or I play PlayStation nonstop. So as long as I have my game with me, it doesn't matter the game and some internet. I can be anywhere in the world.
What's your go-to game, real quick?
Now we're big. Me and my brother. My brother plays in Sweden, and we play Arc Raiders
Nice,
religiously.
nice. It's a
Yeah,
solid
So
we're
game.
we're
Respect it.
heavy into it.
so you
So
have this G League season, and then after that you don't actually ever go back to the G League, but
mm-mm.
you end up going overseas, and now this is where it's like, all right, I'm Jeremiah Hill, I'm an overseas professional basketball player, and you go in your first 3 years, well, disregarding the ABA before, but your first 3 years, you go to Russia and you're in Russia. Just take us through that first year. You get off that plane and you have the experience of the ABA, but now it's like you're going there, you're going to live there, and you end up taking a contract with a team and you stay with them for 2 years. What were those first 2 years like with that team?
He's asking about Astana, like the first 2 years that we went. I can't honestly don't remember what my initial thought was getting off the plane. I know what always will stand out to me is people smoking cigarettes, like in
In
really
the
weird
arena?
places. Yeah, like anywhere. But really, the apartment that I left in. I don't know if you know anything about Astana, but it's very like a futuristic city in the desert. So like once you get in the city, everything looks like incredible. But the second you like get on this outside of the city, it's like dirt. So the first year I was there, my now wife was, you know, coming back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So she was making it better. She was bringing stuff like I was missing. Well, I thought I was missing, hot Cheetos or like ranch or like stuff that you can't get there. But I would say more than anything, we really, really liked it. The cold we were there for was like the most brutal cold in like 50 years. There was like animals freezing on the side of the road. Like it was insane. This part of it was the cold. The Everything else was very nice. They had a good mall. They had I had good guys that I was with. Um, so there was no issue whatsoever with it.
And you said your wife came with you or she was going back and
Yeah,
forth?
no, she was back and forth because we weren't married then. So she said we just started dating. So then, coming into a Russian federation, basically, you can't stay for extensive periods. So she would have to come for like month and a half or 2 months, and then she would have to leave for a month, and then she could come back. So that's what she did. Trooper, she is.
So I'll want to ask this also as we go later on in your career once you guys actually live together overseas. But what was that like during your first year or two where you guys are dating and doing this back and forth and having to do this long distance type of relationship? Because, a lot of guys do this and it's a part of the game. What's that
Mm,
like for you?
it's horrible. It's really, really tough. Definitely wasn't in the mental space to even understand how to do it, which is why, when I have younger guys that are doing it now, I try and talk to them about it because I know how easy it is to be stupid and how easy it is to fall so that was really, really, really hard, especially with how far apart we were time wise. Travel, it took 28, 30 hours to get to Astana. So it was, brutal.
What
And
do
I would
you,
never, yeah, it was stupid,
from where?
stupid. To go from Astana to get back to Jacksonville.
Jeez, that's crazy.
I
Yeah.
mean, I mean to be
But
fair, there's no direct flights to Astana. Like there's nothing,
you have
none
to
of
go through
that.
Moscow.
You're
Yeah.
trekking through the
And then
desert,
when
apparently.
COVID would happen, it was even worse.
What was COVID like out there?
Isolation. I thank God that Warzone was out. I know he did that on purpose. He released that game just for, the boys to make it through. So it was a lot. It was just a lot of the game. She wasn't able to visit that year. it strained us very, very hard. We ended up breaking up that year. So after that, it was even more of the game, more drinking, more stupid decisions. COVID sucked. I know everyone in the world, went through it. So it was awful. It was awful. Wasn't fun. Fans, no fans in the games. We have this big arena and it was silent. So that year was crazy. It was tough.
What was basketball wise the biggest transition? Because obviously, life wise, that was the biggest 180 someone can pretty much imagine going into a pro career. Going from playing in America to playing in the middle of who knows where, Russia, and then also COVID on top of that. So what was the jump in basketball from playing D2, being Player of the Year, things like that, to now playing in your first real pro league outside of the G League, outside of what might be a U.S. style of basketball?
The rules. You know, like, for instance, falling out of bounds and trying to call a timeout.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and I had a huge argument with my coach about it, and so my first game, I had, I think, 8 or 10 turnovers or something like this based on rules that I didn't know, holding the ball on the sideline, get to 5 seconds, I had to call a timeout. The referee just looked at me and calls 5 seconds. I'm like, "What?" The travel, like the sweep through step that
Got to
you
put the
you never
ball
put the
down.
ball. Yeah, stupid. So I felt like I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move. I couldn't run. Anytime I thought that I knew something, I didn't know whatever I was supposed to do. And our coach basically gave us a playbook of 80 plays and was like, when you get here, you need to know them. That was its own experience in itself. But as far as the actual playing of basketball, I still thought that was just as good as anyone. At that time, that's when Mike James was with Cheska and Kyle Hines, and they had a crazy team, and they were in our conference. So, I've been playing against top players for a long time.
Right. You went to a very strong league also coming out of the G League. The VTB is
Hmm.
known as a very good league. Coming straight to there, how was the transition like? Because it seemed like you took it pretty easy, averaging
Yeah.
13, 16 a game. So what was that like for you, just the style?
No, do feel like it was this is when I had the realization of budgets and stuff like that, that yeah, you have guys, but there's a big difference between, the teams that are paying guys millions of dollars versus the lowest budget of our teams. And then it would just be as far as simple stuff where, maybe our bigs don't dunk, they can't dunk, and their bigs are jumping elbow above the rim and they're shot blockers and they can switch and play one-on-one defense and all of this. So that was the biggest, I think, adjustment, was to realize that, okay, we simply just don't have enough. Now, mind you, I did have a crazy team that year. Isaiah Whitehead, Malcolm Hill, Dushin, like our team was loaded. COVID saved the VTB that year because we were gonna get them. We were gonna do something crazy that year. So I mean, I do in a sense feel that we got cheated out of that year. I think that it could have been really, really something good. The second year was, an all right year. We weren't good. We weren't terrible, but we weren't good. So it was just to make
That
sure
gave
that,
you that gave you a little bit more room to do your own
yeah,
thing.
learn. Yeah, learn. Figure out what you can get away with, what you can't get away with. You know, Playing against someone like Kyle Hines, when you do, and watching and realize that he was one of the best switching bigs there were, to figure out how you have to move and your pacing and stuff like this. Obviously, for guys like that, they have no idea that these are things that we think about playing against them or growing up against them. But those are things that I always look forward to. Now I get matchups and I don't care if it's a guard or a big man. I still don't think you can guard me either way. The ability to be okay with failing and learning, and accepting that you're not the best at everything is how you continue to grow as a player. And luckily, I was in a league that allowed me to play for one and to make mistakes and grow while I was doing it.
So then going from Russia, right? You move over to France and Spain. So you go play from, as we said, like a very top league. You had an incredible roster with you. And then some would argue some of the best leagues in the entire world as well are France, Spain, things like that. So what was that transition over to Europe?
Considering that before all of the war stuff, the VTB was in European competition, so they built their teams similar with European players, that it wasn't much of a difference. I do believe there is now that there's differences as far as the leagues. I think French is much more athletic, like gritty basketball, whereas Spain is much more technical and people are thinking and there are a bunch of plays and, things like that. Where now Russia is a money grab. So you go get as much as you can while you're playing out there and you just play. So I think everywhere is different. I don't, at the time, I didn't think anything of it. I just signed and left because of the war that started my third year. So left, went to France, and I genuinely, I didn't care. Like, I think that was kind of like the lowest of my years is I had kind of just not cared anymore, considering that I was on the fifth place team in the VTB before this war started. To then go to a team that's fighting to stay in the league was completely different as far as just the atmosphere, the way we play, so didn't care. Didn't like that year. Was nothing good that came out of that year. And we went to Spain after that, and that was again another learning year. A bad situation that I was in with Sevilla as far as with coaching decisions. So we left. I talked with Mark and went to Girona in that same season, and great learning year. To have vets, Kino and Mark, Pato. I was with Cam Taylor then as well. To have them, that atmosphere really livened basketball back up because they played well together and enjoyed playing. So,
So
that was
then
fun.
from there, you get an opportunity to go back to the VTB, and this time to Moscow, which is probably a bigger city than the other ones that you were at. Although you said Astana was a beautiful city, going to Moscow, this is also now not the beginning and not like the real fire of the war, but the war is still happening. So what was that year like for you? And you go there and you spend the whole season there. What was that year like?
It was good. That's when we got pregnant with him. So we were married. We lived in a really, really nice house, like apartment. Her and I both really enjoy Moscow in general. Besides the traffic that can get a little bit crazy to get into like the center of Moscow where we have no problem. The cost of life is much cheaper than anywhere in comparison. People are very mind their own business. If you mind yours, they mind theirs, and you just exist. So for us, it was one of our better locations that we were in. I know media can make it seem like a lot was going on at the time, but we saw nothing. One thing the entire time we were there.
So you guys
So
had your baby in Moscow?
no, he was conceived there. So we had the baby right before I came here to
So
Shalom my first year.
you were able to have the baby in the States?
Yeah,
Wow, that's
right.
awesome,
Like I was reported. Yeah, I had to report here on the 8th or something like that of August, and he was born on the 11th. So I stayed home 3 or 4 days after he was born, and then I had to come here.
how has the process been like having a baby overseas?
He's very outgoing. Considering that we're rather popular here, he's like the mayor. He walks through the center of the city and everyone stops and waves at him and he waves and he does what he wants. So for him it's been well. I don't think he's had any issues.
Moving a little bit towards from the VTB, and then you go back to France where you're at now, and you're absolutely killing it, averaging over 15 a game. I mean, you got a 2 game stop in Israel and stuff like that, but now you're really have your footing. As you said, you're popular there in France.
Mm.
What's it like now at this stage of your career?
No, I am extremely lucky to have the coach I have now because he's really, really big into me having fun playing basketball. He believes when I'm having fun that's when I'm the best version of myself. So considering that it's been more turning more into a game than work has really like pushed me to want to play even longer. Being with the national team as well, pushing with both sides. I have two coaches that both want me to do the same thing. So it was a great feeling to have to be a part of, to know that something I was yelled at for young is really what made me a good player at the end. And so having fun playing basketball is always a good time. So that's more about what it's been.
Before France last year, you did have that 2-game stop in Israel. You're probably here for like a week or two. What was
Mhm.
that like, even just coming and experiencing Israel for a week or two?
Well, it's different there. I was also there with Angola. I've been with him every country I've been in. He's been there at some point with me, so it was nice to have him be with me dealing with it. Obviously, the basketball aspect of it wasn't the best. Our coach got fired. I was there. We played one game, and then the coach got fired. The one that brought me there. So then another coach came in and didn't want me to play. So I'm like, well, let me go home. They wouldn't let me leave. Whole craziness after that, and ultimately I ended up leaving. So
So yeah,
that was it. It
yeah.
wasn't. It was great. Israel is cool as far as the living. Very expensive to live there, but
Yeah.
being warm and being on a beach, you can't argue with that.
Quality of life is high, but so is cost.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, we both live in Israel, and like it is it's a bit on the pockets. But going back to what you said earlier, you said that you started playing internationally. You played for Cameroon, and
Hmm.
so can you walk us through how important that is to represent Cameroon? What your connection is, kind of what international basketball is like
I mean,
compared to overseas professional basketball.
uh, there's nothing like playing internationally, or nationally. I mean, representing a country because now everything we do, I'm linked with an entire country, which I'm super, super proud to represent. Everything that we've been able to accomplish as this team has been amazing. It's been fun. It's pushed me. I'm still trying to learn French. It's a difficult language, but to be able to talk with these guys who speak multiple languages. So we all as a team look forward to coming back. You don't get to spend the same amount of time together as you do with your clubs. So every time we meet, it's a super good experience to be back together and whatnot. But representing the country is awesome. I love it so much.
Tu parlais français?
Oh, petite.
Pro in France to someone who might be living in America who has no idea what overseas basketball is?
Well, last year was different. I think in every situation, it depends on your coach and the success of the team. So we started the beginning of the year. You got here in when? October? September. So when he was 6 weeks old, she came with the baby, and so that alone was an adjusting period that you will never be able to put into words or say anything other than it's just craziness. Nothing's expected. Everything is chaotic. Sleep is scarce, and then you're trying to be a professional and perform is tough. But you learn, you grow. So the start of the year was preseason. It's preseason of for anything, 2 times a day, a lot of running, waste of time, if you ask me. It could be used better. Then the season starts. We're terrible. We're losing games. Our coach was very old and was stuck playing or coaching old basketball ways. So we didn't have a lot of success with the team he brought together. The new coach came. We changed everything. The way we played, the style, the enjoyment of the game that we started to play together with. We started winning, and then practice starts to get less. You spend more time with the baby, then everybody's happy. So for a normal day when we were successful, you have either morning practice, 10 or 11 to 1 or 2, and then you're done for the day. So that's super nice. Now, when you're losing, you're going to have a 10 to 12, and then you're going to be back 5 to 7, and there's going to be some film, and there's going to be some this, that, the third. Then you have anything that the club needs you to do appearance wise, whether you're going to talk to kids, whether, you have to do the photo shoot with the cars or McDonald's or whoever our sponsors are at the time. then that's pretty much it. Honestly, it's rather boring if you let it be. If not, you can get lost, I guess, and not working on yourself. It's very easy to do that.
Would you say it's a working tactic? You said the schedule when you're losing is almost double, you know? You said you have the morning practice and the evening practice plus film, to just change the whole entire schedule because you're losing more. How does that affect you as a team, you think? Does that work usually, or how have you experienced it?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I mean, obviously, there's no one in the profession that wants to lose. So obviously, we're angry and we want to change the results of the games, but sometimes that's not the way to do it. Sometimes it's bigger issues than that. But for the most part, it works generally well. Just because you're spending more time in the gym, you're hyper focused on stuff, and that's pretty much the extent of it. And nothing outside of that really goes on. Our coach now is not so much concerned with the winning or losing as it is the way we're playing. He says if we do the stuff that we're supposed to do, the winning and losing will happen regardless, because there's sometimes you can play a perfect game and teams just play their perfect and make more shots than you do. So he's very big into not getting caught up into the scoreboard, to get wrapped up into all the small basic details that we're trying to implement in our game plan. So, that's a part of it too. You have different coaches who have different philosophies and styles and all of that.
Right.
As we start to kind of wrap up a little bit with everything, you have built your entire career of consistently not counting yourself out, and of consistently saying that there's no expectations for you to succeed in an area and then succeeding in it regardless. So
Mm,
what kind of advice would you have for someone who might be listening, who might also, who might be a 5'4" freshman looking to just hoop, and is looking at the possibility of trying to take their game to a whole new level and build something with it? What's some advice you might have for them?
be yourself. Simple as it gets, but it's the most difficult thing to do, considering as a player, there's so many people who have opinions or they have advice or they have, coaching that they think that will help you, but they aren't you. And sometimes they can help, but if you allow all of these different sources to pull and stretch and change, you kind of lose yourself. And once you do that, nothing works. It doesn't matter how many people try to help or hurt or whatever. Being yourself is the center of it all. Find yourself and stick with you no matter what, through the success, through the failure, through the growth, and everything will go the way it's meant to be.
What is one characteristic that you would say you must have to be successful at any level?
Accountability, regardless. When you win, you are accountable for that. So when you lose, or when you're not doing your workouts, or when you're cheating a rep that no one is watching, because at this level, they tell us to do said stuff, but no one's actually there counting your reps. So if you wanted to do three and be done, you can do three and be done. It's about you holding yourself to your standards and keep going through that.
So, one final question before we let you go. When people hear the name Jeremiah Hill years from now, what do you hope that they'll remember most?
My smile. That's what it's all about, man. For one, we're showmen, it's a business, but it's a game. And games are meant to be to enjoy and have fun doing. It's the way we're taught when we're kids. Before you start getting paid, everything is joy behind playing basketball. Whether you play 2-on-2 or you play 3-on-3 outside on a short goal when you're tall and everybody's dunking on everybody, it's just fun. And I think that us being now employees of basketball can really push away the fun. So I think that would be if anything I would like to be remembered for, it would be that.
All right.
Smiling even while we're playing anyone. Doesn't matter.
It's a great answer.
That's one of my favorite answers we've gotten, for sure.
Thanks.
We
I
hope
appreciate that.
that you keep smiling through the rest of your career.
For sure. No doubt
Really,
about it.
really appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
All right. See you guys.